Welcome to Titans for Life with your hosts, Justin Dubo and Dean Mayrand. Don't ever do that to me again, hey? Legs right after leg day? You did it on purpose.
I know
you did.
I totally did yesterday.
Oh, you did a leg day and then the legs again today?
Yeah, it's always a surprise when you go.
Yeah.
My schedule, like I took Thursday off and I just walked and stretched. So I'm like one day behind. Usually leg days Friday or Saturday.
Yeah.
So did it Sunday and then show up today. And that was it. That was all of it.
Because the next day you can hardly walk the next day.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, we're gonna stretch our groins today. I'm like, no, I don't think we are.
I'm a big believer as we get older, like that foundation.
Yes.
It's so important to have strong legs.
Yeah.
And that's where so many injuries happen as you age.
Exactly.
From weak hamstrings, then that goes into the lower back, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So as long as you have a good posterior chain, good strong posterior chain, that's everything for an older man, I think.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, because usually when accidents happen, people get in their 70s.
Yeah.
They fall, break a hip. Next thing you know, that's where the problems are.
Because they can't sit. They're not walking as far as they should.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hard to get down.
Legs are important.
And I'm big on the the little silly exercises, not so much the squat, the leg press, the side lunges and the dumbbell, groin hip, like the mobility work, and even quick feet and agility stuff for the legs. Like that's so important.
It's huge. Mm-hmm. When I did the climb in Nepal, I did even the stair climber. Doing that, I got up to 95 minutes each round that I did.
Wow.
But when you're climbing up to 8,000 feet, I mean that leg day, that's everything, right?
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, have you guys did any trekking, or have you gone anywhere or doing any of that kind of thing? Or?
No, but I would really like to. I have a friend, Ty Wilson, who he goes up to BC and Western Alberta and does like 2 or 3 day hikes, camps, and like gets to a certain height, camps a night, and then takes another loop. And
it's amazing to do. So.
I would love to do that.
Yeah. Oh, what we used to do, like the one I did in 2018, is we attach a purpose with the adventure. And so we bought a truckload of rice, truckload of clothes up in Nepal, and we had them. I don't know even how they got it up to the people, but we went out to the mountain people, and we drove 7 hours out of Kathmandu, and then run out of road, and then the backpacks come on, and for the next 5.5 hours you're going up the mountain. And we had no idea who would be meeting us up there, how many people, but 325 of the mountain people, they had heard we're coming, and they met us up there.
Wow.
And we spent that time, 3 days with them up there.
320 people?
325 people.
Wow.
And then so we fed them, gave them rice. And so with so many people, we bought a cow as well. And so we butchered a cow up there.
Wow.
And so we had a feast up there. And then we did a mini conference. It was amazing. Yeah.
It seems like those kind of trips would be just so valuable.
It's like a National Geographic trip. Actually, our cameraman from Toronto, he took such good pictures that one of our pictures wound up on the face of a magazine, on a missions magazine.
Wow.
It was just one of those National Geographic moments. It's
cool.
Beautiful up there. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, good getting together with you guys.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm happy this worked out today. You're taking out to Pakistan.
Yep, Pakistan, March the 2nd. And so I'll arrive there on the 4th. And then we're doing several things. We do a leadership seminar. We'll have over 1,000 pastors. So we're actually accessing about 20 cities from the surrounding area. So we'll have about 1,000 to 1,200 pastors, Bible school students, and leaders. And then we're doing a prayer festival as well. So we'll do that for about 3,000 people. And then we're doing the grand opening for the headquarters that we just built. So I flew into Pakistan 2021. So I've been a missions director for 17 years with the organization that we're with Victory Churches. But for about 30 years, I've been traveling all over the world, most of that time in India and places like that. But Pakistan was the one country I said I'll never go, because it's just too dangerous. It's just, one of these things that I value my life and all of that. So, but I had it in my heart during COVID started up, and it just came into my heart, and I just felt the Spirit of God put it on the inside of me. And I just knew I've got to go. and a door opened up, and I was contacted, and they said, "Hey, we saw you on Facebook, this and this. Would you speak for us?" And I also had a desire to be on television there for some reason. And I said, "Can you get me on television?" They said, "No problem, I'll get you on television." So anyhow, I went there in 2021, and Canada blocked me from coming home. I was supposed to be there for like 10 days. And one night I woke up in the about 3 in the morning. There's this little ping on my phone, and there's this thing saying, basically you're not leaving Pakistan. And so they blocked all flights from India and Pakistan. So I spent 88 days in Pakistan on my first visit there.
Wow.
So it's a terrorist nation, and but
A little bit of an extended stay
Yeah.
of 88 days.
so I felt in my heart that I was right in the middle of the will of God. And for the next 70 some days that I was there, I started doing leadership seminars in Faisalabad and all over the place. And so I'd find myself walking down back alleys. I got machine guns around me and all this. And the very thing that I said I'd never do, I was walking through these back alleys at 11 o'clock at night in Pakistan. And I thought, this is insane. But I felt good. I felt right in the right place that I should be. And so while I was there, I began to see, and I spoke to the partners that we developed. I developed partnership with people. And I began to see that we'll have our own headquarters. We'll start our own church, and we'll start to do leadership seminars, and then we'll start to put kids through school. So I spoke that 5 years ago to these people. I said, "You watch, mark my words. We'll have our own land and all that." And we had no money to start with, though, zero money. And since that time, we bought our own land, built a beautiful headquarters. It's huge, and from that headquarters, we'll do our own broadcasts now. And all the stuff that we do here at the church will be brought over there and edited, voice over into the Urdu language, and then it's put on satellite TV with Isaac TV. And we have the access to 220 million people across Pakistan. So that's kind of what we're doing there. But I grew up here in this community. My dad's a farmer, was a farmer, and logger, fisherman, all of that type of stuff. And my dream was aviation. That's what I wanted to do. And when I finished my commercial pilot license, it was shortly after that I gave my heart to the Lord. I got born again. Like I had, at one time I had nothing to do with the things of God, all of this stuff, but I had an encounter with God. And after that, I felt to lay my flying books aside and study the Bible with the same intensity that I did my commercial pilot license, to really get to know this stuff. And when I was studying, I could see, it's like God showed me that I'll travel the nations and I'll preach the gospel. So over about 9 or 10 years, 9 or 10 years being part of this church, eventually I felt to move to Sweden, and I moved my family to Sweden. We went to Bible school there.
Wow.
And we went to a church there that was so powerful, and they were doing missions work into the former Soviet Union. And it was a local church, but they thought big, and that's where the world really shrunk for me. It just opened up it was like the gateway to the world, to the nations for me, and it just changed my whole mindset. So I dedicated my life to world missions back in 1993. So when I came back to Cold Lake, I had no intention of being a pastor. None of this, I couldn't be no pastor. I wanted to blow in, blow up, and blow out and talk to other people and let the pastor deal with the problems. But
Yeah.
anyhow, but this is what I do. So last 30 years, we've been pastoring here. We run Christian schools. We feel that to really be able to change the family, we have to really focus on the children as well. So home and family is a big thing for us. And so preaching sermons and all that is good. But if we can have access to the kids 4 or 5 days a week and be involved in their lives, I think we can have bigger impact on families. And but why we're here in this podcast, of course, is because of the issues with families and the great need in that.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you guys, by the way. I don't want to take the show here, but I want to thank you guys for putting such an emphasis, towards men and helping men and strengthen, because it's a big need in our nation.
Right.
It's a great need right now. And
We're thankful there's people like you that are part of the journey as well, though.
yeah,
We appreciate that too.
Yeah.
Trying to make better men, better households, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it's all about. The story of Noah, when a friend of mine, he's about 80 years old now, but he's a Texan, but he pastored in Saskatoon for 35 years. And his church, the first time I walked in his church, you just knew what the focus was, and it was home and family. And he came here one time and he preached a message, and he says the whole story of Noah was how God saved the world by saving the family. Because one man, it was just one man in the middle of a generation that was just coming apart at the seams. And one man took a stand. He actually must have been a good dad, because his 3 sons listened to him. They stuck with him, their wives and his wife. So they kept the family unit together for 120 years, and they built that ark. And so God saved the world by saving the family, one family.
Yeah.
So one man makes a difference. Yeah.
I like that.
I got a quick question. So, stuck in my head when you said your first trip to Pakistan and you couldn't come home. How did that not sour you? The fact that you couldn't come home.
It's amazing. You ever watch that show, Band of Brothers?
A little bit here and there.
Okay, you remember they're paratroopers, right? The Easy Company. And I remember there's a scene in there where they paratroop. They flew into an area there, and so one of the privates or whatever he was, he says, "Hey, I don't know. I don't know where we're at. We're lost." And the lead guy there, he says, "Hey, we're exactly where we're supposed to be. We're behind enemy lines." And I felt like I had been put into a position that it was a dream come true for me. And because, I'm a missionary at heart. And so I go into Bangladesh, like our missions leaders used to say, "Lord, so we have a contact in Bangladesh. We need you to go to Bangladesh." So, I just go in there by myself. And to me, I don't know, I'm kind of hardwired just to get into these places. And it's an adventure. It's dangerous. It's an adventure, but we get all sorts of things done. So for me, I felt not sour. It was actually a missions director from Sweden contacted me. He said, "Lawrence," he said, "Apostle Paul was hindered from going to Rome. He said, you're hindered from going home. Welcome to the mission field." So he knew I was stuck in Pakistan.
Wow, yeah.
And so it was the strangest thing. I went from never wanting to go there to just feeling at home. And the truth is, the hardest part of that whole trip was coming home.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think there's so much power in being able to shift your framing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Whatever situation it is, if you can shift the framing on it and find the lesson, find the value in it.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Out of the 29 countries that I've been, I never thought I'd say this, but Pakistan is actually the most hospitable country I've ever been in. The people. It's the most dangerous, but the people themselves are just friendly, laugh, embrace. And family is a big thing for them.
Yeah.
Here in our culture, men will actually leave, or people will leave, strong family ties or good friendships and all that, because they get a better job somewhere, and they'll just leave everything. But in those countries there, they won't do that, because family is more important than the dollar. So here is such a high value on money and all of this stuff. But you go to these places, they're really poor, but they're laughing, they're carrying on, and all of this stuff. Here we got all the money and we're going through so much trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
Something.
I kind of want to go back to the beginning a little bit, if that's okay with you.
Sure. Yeah.
You were born and raised in Cold Lake.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about your early life and some of the experiences that shaped who you are today?
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
That's back down memory lane.
Well, my mom and dad, I think about them. I remember, of course, we were raised on the farm and everything. And I'm born way back in 1962. There's 5 of us in the family. I'm the youngest of 5. And mom and dad were just basic, simple farmers. And we all 5 of us kids, so we were raised Catholic. When by the age of 12 years old, I wanted nothing more to do with church and all that. But I had a lot of adventure on the inside of me, and I left home at 15 years old. But the one thing, I guess I'll bring it back to this, is mom and dad were the stability of the whole crew. Like all 5 of us kids went haywire for about, I don't know, 10, 15 years for some of them. Me, it was a little bit shorter and intense, but all of us, alcohol, drugs, this, that, and, sex and chasing women, all of that stuff, everything. But we could always come home, and I'll never forget it, because it really spoke to me. I could always come home mom and dad never got on our case, nothing like that. Coffee was out, pie is out. You might have a hangover or whatever, you've been partying for a week or whatever, but you could come home and it was like an anchor. It was like a compass. It was like there was a stability there. So even though we went wild for a period of time, so that was one thing that really stood out. The farm life, obviously, I enjoy equipment and machinery and, all of that type of stuff and hunting. But the family life, mom and dad, I'll never forget that stability there. They weren't perfect people. They weren't preaching people or anything like that, but they just had a good marriage. I never heard an argument between mom and dad all my life. Never heard. Dad never raised his voice at mom. Never heard that. Never heard the word divorce. Didn't even know what that was until later on. You learn about that. But there was just a lot of things that just were like an anchor for me. So even though we went haywire, and but it came back.
Just set an excellent example for you, and that compass was always there.
It's true. It's like an autopilot. Like like I'm a pilot, and the coordinates can be put into your autopilot, and there's forces that could you could maybe override the autopilot. But the stuff that's in the autopilot, when you relax the grip, it always goes back to that setting. And I think for kids, just to see mom and dad solid, I think it's a big deal.
I agree.
Program that autopilot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's a big deal.
Giving that foundation to stand on that the
It's
parents might not have.
Dads are the most, like, both of them are very important players, but the dads need to understand they're very huge players in the family. Even with church life, if the dad goes to church, pretty much most of that family are going to go to church. They're gonna go that direction. But if only mom goes to church, I forget what the percentage, but it's a huge percentage drop. And obviously, if both mom and dad and they're just trying to send their kids to church, it doesn't really work. It's pretty low percentage. But the influence of the dad is a very big deal. And in our culture today, that's what we're really missing is the dad. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Masculinity, the father figure,
yeah,
it's stern, sometimes tough love, but
it's true.
it's needed.
We need that. And as the example, just to take the kids out hunting, fishing, talk to the boys about, just talk about
Morals, values.
They think we're just fishing, but it's therapy too.
Yeah.
So I had good parents, but the one thing I didn't have, in all honesty, is there was no open communication. Like we never talk about nothing really. It's just like farming or whatever. But that was it.
Your emotions didn't have emotions.
There was no connection that way.
I see.
And then as far as like, thinking through things, like we were just left to figure everything out. And I mean, you leave young guys to figure things out and you know where that's going to go, right?
Yeah.
So I was just a typical guy. So,
Yeah.
We were pretty wild.
Yeah. I made mistakes.
I think you got to hit those boundaries
Yeah.
at some point, right?
Yeah, well, we hit them hard, I guarantee you.
Yeah. Anything you want to add there?
No, I'm not perfect.
No. Yeah. I've made huge mistakes in my life. You've been married for 40 years, which is incredible. What has marriage taught you about commitment, sacrifice, and leadership?
One thing I'll say about marriage, like, and I just got into it. I just stepped into marriage, and to me, there's no plan B to it. But I'll tell you, marriage will knock the selfishness right out of you because, when I got married, you don't realize how selfish you are until you put yourself with another person.
Right.
And then all of these things, we call them time released beliefs. So many times people are walking around and we don't even know what we believe. We don't even really know a lot of things about ourselves until we're in that situation. And so once we get into marriage, there's a lot of things that come out that unless we've been, depending again how we've been raised. So what was modeled in front of us. So if we had good parenting in front of us and we saw the husband-wife relationship, it's kind of internal inside of us. Again, it goes back to that autopilot. But if we see like I feel sorry for people getting married now because they're raised in divorced homes, like many kids, they don't have dads, moms, so they got two moms and two, whatever. And so marriage, what it taught me is one is you can't have a plan B. You have to look for solutions. I always look for solutions.
That's so you're so right on that.
We would have been divorced probably the first 7 years of our marriage. We'd probably been divorced 15 times probably, but like it was just she's strong-willed, I'm strong-willed. I was very selfish, and all these things come out self-centered, and it's not a good mix, but it can be done if there's no plan B. There's no plan B. I don't need a counselor who just
Right.
figure this thing out.
It forces you to look for the
Yeah.
solution.
Yeah.
There's no easy way out.
Real
Yeah.
quick on that. So, wife and I have been together for almost 30 years now. First 15 were very rocky. I bet you we split up about 100 times.
Yeah,
Because we always were looking at that plan B.
that's right.
We were always looking at the plan B. As soon as we threw plan B out the window
Yeah.
and just committed to each other fully, both of us,
Yeah.
it was smooth sailing. the whole-
It's true.
just that one light switch.
That's right.
Mhm.
And I think we live in a very soft culture, very selfish culture.
Yeah.
And so we have these. I feel bad for them because they're getting married, but they can't handle pressure. Little disagreement, little argument is everything's all done, blown out of. But if our generation, growing up, you tough it out. And I think with mom and dad's generation, divorce so rare.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You got married. I mean, you made it work.
That was
That's
the
it.
way to make it work.
Yeah.
You just make it work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that culture we live in now too. Everything's just too easy. So if you want to give up at the first sight, Tinder's right up there on your phone.
Oh.
That's terrible.
And the social media.
Not a great app for anybody.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true.
You can go searching for whatever attention or
Just
thrill
like
that you
that.
want.
Just
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Instead of talking to that person and actually growing with them.
So our marriages, I believe in sowing and reaping. I believe, our lives are like a garden, you could say, or like a field. And the marriage is really like a field, and it depends what we put into it.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we have people coming into marriage, but for what we can get out of it. And that's not a good mix.
No.
But if we both come into this wanting to invest into it, so it's not about me anymore. It's not about the woman anymore, the wife. It's about us now. Everything
Yeah.
has to be the language of us now.
Mhm.
And that took a long time to figure that
A
out.
lot of practice.
Yeah, a lot of
Still
years.
working on it.
Yeah, it's true.
Work in progress.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah, one line we use is it's never me against you in the argument. It's you and I against the problem.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. Because, and it's not that, and again, in all reality, your forgiver has to be working really well. And the ability to humble yourself and apologize when you're wrong, because, I used that many times, probably about 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And because for me, and you got to know your strengths and weaknesses. We did a personality profile one time, and we both laughed because we both realized why we argue so much. Like when I finally understood her personality, how she's wired, I just didn't realize a lot of things. And then mine, if I'm under pressure, I talk.
Mhm.
I'm verbal. But if she's under pressure, she's
Yeah.
wants to control. Also, she just different. And then also, she's very detailed. She's very administrative. Me, I just whatever. I'm
Winging it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So and those personalities, unless we understand that, can really be a conflict.
Mhm. Because she would feel she has no control.
Exactly. And so sometimes people are getting divorced because of incompatibility. And I think, well, that's the most ridiculous thing. Of course, we're incompatible. First of all, she's a woman, I'm a guy.
Yeah.
That right there is enough to blow it off the chart.
Never mind how you were raised or
Yeah,
the adult you have.
Exactly.
All those things you need to work on in your personal life. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me add another thing. When people are getting married,
Hey guys, quick pause to talk about a brand I actually use and trust Prestige Labs. When it comes to supplements, I don't mess around with hype or garbage ingredients. Prestige Labs focuses on clean, third-party tested products that actually support performance and recovery. I personally use their creatine for strength and output, protein powder to hit my daily intake, and their cravings crusher at night to stay disciplined and avoid late night snacking. If you're training hard and want supplements that support your work instead of working against you, check them out. You can find the link in the show notes and on our Instagram page under the Linktree link. And as always, this isn't medical advice, just real tools for men putting in real work.
I think a lot of times people don't look at, again, back to the upbringing. If the person you're getting married to might be beautiful, nice figure, we look at all of these things. So that's fine. And that's good. But we have to realize, what background did they come out of? Is the home toast? Like, is it been divorce after divorce? How do they handle problems? Like when there's a fight, sometimes people are about to get married and I said, well, you ever see him mad? No, I never seen him mad. I think you better do something to make him mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to see, what are they really like when they're mad?
Mhm.
because some people, like, there's all sorts of reactions. Some people are violent, other people, they check out, and so there's a lot of surprises that can happen in marriage. And so I think that's why helping encourage people to have the right conversations about real stuff is important. But yeah,
That time release belief. I've never heard that before, but
Yes.
that's so true.
Mhm.
You could go through your whole life and have these beliefs and they never surface because you didn't have a counterpart to have to worry about, right?
Or you didn't have a situation you ran into that made it come out.
exactly.
Nothing's ever made me mad enough to do this, and now something has happened.
Yeah.
You see a side of that person that you've never seen before.
Exactly. We don't even know ourselves until we're put into different situations. And
Yeah.
we think
Depends
we're
where
gonna
the
be one.
pressure's coming from.
Yeah. And in marriage, I tell people this is a funny way to say it, but with marriage, the Bible says the two shall become one. Well, I tell people that doesn't happen at the altar. They're not becoming one there. I said, look at it this way. It's like taking two potatoes, two little spuds, throw them in a pot, turn the heat up, put the lid on, turn the heat up. And just when it's unbearable for those two little potatoes, the lid comes off and they think, oh, finally the pressure's off. But then comes the masher and they mash,
Yeah.
mash, mash, mash. And when you can't tell one potato from the other, now the two have become one.
Wow.
Yeah,
So if you survive all of the conflict, now you have a good marriage.
great analogy. You became a commercial pilot at just 19 years old.
Yes.
That's a lot of responsibility at a young age.
Yes.
What did aviation teach you about discipline, preparation, and decision making?
Phenomenal. So I dreamed of aviation as a kid. I dreamed it. And at 17, I sat down with my dad. I said, I want to become a pilot. So thank God for aviation. It kind of really saved me from the drugs and alcohol because now I had to get focused. So I had nobody there schooling me and say, come on, study. No, I'm 17 years old. And I just wanted it so bad that I began to study. And so the first thing I would say is I read through that whole flight book and I couldn't remember one thing I read. It was so frustrating. It's like I didn't get it. I read through the whole book and I couldn't have told you anything I read. I grabbed my books one night and I remember I was so mad. And because I hadn't studied in school for so many years, my brain was like mush. And I grabbed my books and I was going to throw them right through the window. And I'll never forget the day because I had those books, I was so frustrated and I made up my mind. I made a decision. So the first thing about aviation that I learned, it's a life principle. Nothing changes in our life until we decide.
Mhm.
I tell people that all the time. So a lot of times we want everything to change. We have to change.
Right.
So I made a decision to study and I opened up to page 1. And this time I slowed down and I said to myself, I'm going to learn this stuff. And that's when the learning began. And so the thing about aviation is several things that I learned. One is how to manage problems under pressure,
Mhm.
engine failures, this. So my instructor, he was a CF-5 fighter pilot, excellent guy, very, very nice guy. But he would take that plane and he would put it in all sorts of situations. And then he'd say, okay, open your eyes and recover. And did it over and over, engine failures, this. And pretty soon it got to the point where everything is a second nature. Under pressure, you're calm because you've trained. So training is very important. And that can be done in any area of life where we learn to look for solutions. We learn to solve problems under pressure. It's very, very important. And then another thing was navigation. Number one is we never take off without knowing where we are going or knowing what the flight is all going to be about. And many people are sailing through life. They're flying through life. They don't know where the heck they're going.
Right.
There's no end
They
destination.
don't even know. They don't even have a goal. I preached that on Sunday. I said, you got to have a clear picture. What are you doing? What your finances, your health, your this, your this? What goals do you have? So I learned in aviation how to set goals and then how to keep an eye on those goals because back in the day, we weren't using GPS. We're flying with a compass and all of this. So every 15 minutes, we would check to see if we're on course.
Course correct.
Because 1 degree off course and 100, 200 miles from there, you will be so far from your destination. And in our lives, we need to have ways of checking, are we on course?
Yeah.
But we got to know where we're going. So another thing is I did a little bit of IFR training. I'm not an IFR pilot, but I did a little bit of IFR training. And that's learning to make decisions just based on the instruments. Right. learning how not to go by your feelings. And to be honest with you, as a Christian, like when I became a Christian, I found that aviation was so parallel to being a Christian. It was just amazing. One time I got lost over Lackland Bush, and I was over the clouds, whatever I call flight service station. And, flight service station, this India Quebec Bravo, I'm at 7,500 feet. I need a little help with so I'm talking to somebody I have never met. I can't see, but they give me information, and then I trust that information and I act on that information. And man, I'm still alive, because if I wouldn't have got the right information, I wouldn't have been. It was a tight situation. But so God is the same thing. So in life, we learn to fly by our instruments, like in aviation. But in Christianity, I'll just pull it over to Christianity. You have a Bible. There's solid biblical principles. And whether we feel like it or not, because sometimes in life, you get the stuff that's kicked out of you and you feel like you're not going to make it. We need something solid other than our feelings.
Right.
Something that tells you that your marriage isn't going to make, or you're not going to pass this addiction. You're not going to ever get past this. Those things are just feelings. They're not true.
Right. You need some
Yeah.
sort of guiding instruments.
And feelings fade; they're up and down.
It's true. Like
Depending on
my brother almost died. So how I came in as a Christian, my brother was a 16-year drug addict, and he was on the methadone program out of Edmonton. And both him and I were really close. We lived together for about 4 years. And so I watched when his health went down. I saw him when he was really strong, but in those years with methadone, eventually it was very deadly. And there was a point in his life, I remember, where he said, should I try God or suicide? And, this is pretty heavy. It's 19 years old. I was 19 and just finished my commercial pilot license, but I'm watching my brother go through this at the same time. And you know what I told him? I wouldn't have been a good counselor, because back in those days, I had nothing solid. I was like anybody else. I had nothing. I just winging it like everybody else, pulling out ideas here and there out of the air. And then I was living my life with this, just faulty ideas. And I told him, he said, do you think God can help me? I said, I don't think God can do anything for you. And, so we hugged and we said our goodbyes, and he took a rifle to the end of the road. He was going to shoot himself.
Wow.
I tell the story because it ends well. And thank God he didn't do it. But he came back from the end of the road. He had the gun in his mouth, everything. He was going to do it. But he felt 1 second. We always used to say, when you're dead like a dog. But he said this time, when he went to do it, he felt 1 second after he does this, he's going to go into a Christless eternity. And he came back from the end of the road, and I remember, I'll never forget it. He said, I don't care what you think or anybody. I gotta find God. I gotta get a relationship with God. 30 days later, long story short, he got born again, received Jesus. And within 2 weeks, he was actually set free out of a 16-year drug habit. I watched the whole thing. It was a terrible come down, by the way. It wasn't, it was miraculous, but it was very bad. But the thing in our lives that changed, and people began to see that in us, is our lives started to become, not started, it was like almost overnight. It was steady now.
Right.
Before, we were unpredictable. I tell you the truth, we were wild, and people didn't even want to be around us. We were crazy. But all of a sudden, mom and dad saw people around us. My own sister said, as long as Frank and Lawrence are at home, I'll never come home again. And that's how it was, off the wall. We're just everything. So we were an extreme example. Most people aren't in that extreme. But within days, our life just stabilized, and we're reading the Bible, going to church, and starting to get around Christians. And there became a stability there that we've lived for about 42 years now, and we've never turned back. But there's something other than feelings. So I learned that in aviation, but also in life as well, something other than feelings. So yeah. So people that live without God, to be honest with you, I don't know how they do it. If I didn't have the Lord, I'd be smoking dope. I'll tell you the truth right now. I would be, because people, I don't blame anybody for doing all this stuff.
No.
Because people need something, and so they're going to go into this or that or whatever. And I would be doing that myself.
It's a quick fix and anonymous, right?
Yeah. And people, there's a lot of pain. There's a lot of pressure. Maybe their marriage fails or whatever. So what are you going to do?
It tends to be your life, right? It's suffering for most of it, right?
And then for us, we just found we found a route that's real.
It goes back to purpose, right? Really digging into what your purpose is as a man. And in your own life personally, what you want to achieve and what you want to accomplish, who you want to be.
100%.
Mhm.
Yes, it's true. You know, for men, like the advice I would give men, and exactly what you said is you gotta find your purpose, your reason. And until you find that, they say this, the two most important times in your life is number one is the day that you're born, and the second time is the day you discover why. Why am I here? Because that was a big question when I was a teen. I got looking around. I got looking at everybody that were doing this, doing that. And I thought, is this it? That's why I thought the way I did. I thought, you
There's
mean
got
to
to be
say,
more to life.
is
than this.
this it? You mean I'm going to buckle down and do all this for what? And so until I found my what, I was all over the map.
And that purpose, I believe, can shift and change multiple times through your life.
It can, yeah. Because, you know, you're growing, you're maturing, your perspectives are changing. But there's certain core values, though, that can stay the same.
Yeah.
You know, for me, I'm living for eternity now. That's why I'm not afraid. I'll go into all sorts of areas. No, I'm not afraid because if I die, I know where I'm going now. Like I never used to have that. We used to get high and ask, you know, we'd talk, have these deep conversations, you know, what's, you know, is there this and this? But now there's no question mark. I know there's a God. I know where I'm going. And so I'll go and do all sorts of things around the world. And if I die, it's not a problem. I'm
So
going
be
into eternity. Yeah, not a problem. Because we're the big thing is this is most people don't think they're gonna die.
Mhm.
Everybody's gonna die.
Yeah.
It's 100% guaranteed.
100% success rate.
Yes, that's right.
Death and taxes.
Yeah, that's right. We all gonna do it. Yeah.
You mentioned changes. I think so many men want big changes,
Yeah.
but really aren't willing to make the big changes in themselves.
You know, part of that maybe is because they don't know how to change. They want to. Actually, that's my subject right now. I'm actually doing a series right now on how to deal with life's problems. And the first thing that I talk about is our identity. Is, you know, we got to have a clear identity of who we are because, you know, when I travel with a passport. Obviously, we need passports to travel. But if you lose your identity, or if somebody messes with your identity, maybe somebody hacks your computer and they fiddle with your identity, or they steal your identity, they can begin to do all sorts of things. So our identity, especially in this day and age, is huge. And knowing who we are, and I think that goes back again, there's a lot of that comes back from mom and dad and that, but there's a deeper identity. If we think that our life has no purpose, that's a huge deal.
Mhm.
But if we realize that, hey, I'm here, I'm somebody, I'm created for a purpose, I'm here on purpose, I'm who I am, I'm wired, the talents, the gifts, and all that. I'm here by design. And when we get hold of that, that's the first step. Second thing I tell people is again, nothing changes until we make a decision to change.
Yeah.
We might not know what it is that we need to do. The moment we decide, okay, I'm gonna figure this thing out, then it's like we start to open up. The problem is when we're children, we're wide open for new ideas. We usually do all of our learning, you know, through our teens, you know, children actually to 6 years old, it's a huge amount of learning. But by the time you get to 18 years old, 20 years old, people stop learning. They become emotionally attached with what they've learned. And I tell people, don't be emotionally attached with your thoughts. Your thoughts are only vehicles to get you somewhere. But people get all emotionally attached. So the things they've learned, Ronald Reagan said it really good one time. He said, it's not that people don't know a lot. It's just that so much of what they know isn't real.
Mhm.
It isn't
Yeah.
true.
I know so many people actually who like cap it. They cap what they just want to know what they know, and that's locked in.
And they'll
They
bite you.
don't even want the new information.
That preconceived notion stays forever. It's
Well,
locked in.
it happened to me. I was 19 years old. And when my brother talked to me about the Lord, to be honest with you, like that is so foreign to me. I hit him. It's like my whole world got challenged. And people will get really upset when their world is challenged. But to have change, your world does have to be challenged. It's like we can't be afraid. That's why if your identity is secure, then you can delve into your thoughts and say, hey, where did I get this thought?
Mhm.
Where did I get this thought? And that's where reading books, biographies, and all. So we need to get off the computer and we're scrolling and reels and all that. We need to read some books.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most people stop reading after they get out of school. They don't have read a book in 20 years.
I feel like a good time for inflection is just going to walk in nature too. Sometimes
Yeah,
take
it's
that
wonderful.
30-minute walk and just sit with your own thoughts for a bit.
Oh, it's great.
Deep breaths, fresh air.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
You come back wiser somehow.
Yeah.
I know what I need to do now. That's there.
I used to take a gun in the bush and go out for one of those walks and find a squirrel, pop. But that's farm life. But yeah, going out in nature and the only reason I've been able to pastor for as long as I have been with and many pastors don't make it much past 5 years or whatever, is because like for me, I told my wife when I started pastoring, I said I will not fit into a box. I don't even care if anybody calls me a pastor. I'm not fitting into a stereotype or a mold of what a pastor is. I'm gonna live my life out of my heart, and let's see what happens. And life has been an adventure. And I think for many guys, here's the problem: when they get married, many guys they let their dreams go.
Yeah,
they let everything go, and we're not designed. We're designed. There's a wild side to men, and when you cap that off, you're gonna have a frustrated man. I tell you.
Yeah.
He's going to get boring. He's going to get fat. He's going to eat potato chips.
He shuts off. He sits in the garage. He
He's got no reason to work out.
Mm-hmm.
But when you allow, I teach our people, dream. Don't be afraid to dream.
Yeah. Dare to dream.
Dare to dream. I remember one time, and some of the dreams I tell people, don't tell your dreams all the time because people talk you out of it.
Yeah.
Because most people aren't really big dreamers.
You're even more scared than you.
Well, one time I remember the jets were flying over and I'd be mowing my grass. And I had it in my heart and I said, Lord, I'd do anything to be in the back of an 18. I never told a soul. And 10 years went by. And one night I got up to speak here. And one of my backup singers, she was an instructor on the ejection seats of the F-18. So what I didn't know is 3 years earlier, it came into her heart to get Pastor a ride in the back of an 18. And I didn't know. And I hadn't told anybody. So I never mentioned it to a soul, but it just came into her heart. So one night I'm up here, I'm about to speak. She said, Pastor, can I have the mic? I said, go ahead. And you were. So I just want to present you with a signed waiver for a ride in the back of a CF-18. And I didn't say anything publicly. I thanked her and all that. But immediately I knew I don't want to just go for a ride. I want to go full air combat. And it's unheard of for a civilian ever to do such a thing. And I took her behind the doors after. I said, thank you, all this stuff. And I said, but hey, I don't want to go for a ride. Can you get me full air combat? And that means you go on a full air combat training mission and you're getting into it. It's the real dogfighting. She said, Pastor, it took me 3 years. They turned it down over and over. I said, just ask. So she took it back to the wing commander. She said, sir, he doesn't want to just go for a ride. He wants full air combat. And I said, who is this guy? And they signed it off. So I have the pictures on my wall and everything, and the wing commander signed it off and I'm going somewhere with this story. The wing commander signed it off for an hour, 20-minute full air combat. So you got to do the training and everything. And when we were on takeoff, by the way, the guy, he swung it around. He said, Lawrence, he said, you want to feel takeoff? He's giving you the little 172s. He said, feel this one. And he just put the hammer down and just kaboom, 32,000 pounds of thrust. And we took off. We get up to 15,000 feet and he did something I was not expecting. He says, you have control. I got to fly the F-18 back in 2002. Anyhow, we did 6 rounds of dogfighting. But the point that I'm making is this: dare to dream.
Right.
And many men won't even allow themselves to dream. They lose the wild side. We had it when we were in our teens.
Yeah.
You get married and you think, oh, I'm married now. And I've heard guys say, oh, I can't do that. I'm married. I thought, well, marriage is not an excuse.
It's not, no.
What a terrible thing.
It's so programmed to go to school, get a job, start a family, and just maintain the status quo, right?
Yeah.
Like there's so much more to this thing.
And you think about it, what was your wife attracted to anyhow? The
Yeah.
wild
The
side of
adventurous
you.
side of you.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then if you're not, but she'll calm you down. She'll take it. So you got to be careful. You don't allow her to do that. You got to still venture out there because that's what she was attracted.
Venture out with good intentions.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
That's right. I'm having fun.
Yeah, this is-
These are great stories.
You've been a pastor and missionary for over 30 years now. When did you first sense this calling on your life? You had spoken a little bit to it before.
Yeah, it's interesting because so this was all unexpected, of course.
Fellas, this episode is brought to you by the Titans for Life Hydration Backpack. If you train, hike, bike, ruck, work outside, or spend any time pushing yourself in the heat, hydration can't be an afterthought. This pack was built for movement. It has a 2-liter water bladder, adjustable chest and waist straps, breathable back support, and a lightweight tactical design that stays with you when you're moving. It's simple, rugged, and useful. Exactly how your gear should be. You can find it on Amazon. Search Titans for Life Hydration Pack or check the link in the show notes. Now, back to the show.
I wasn't planning on being a Christian. I was planning on being a pilot, and then this encounter, I have this God encounter, and this is something that happened that I didn't even believe. I didn't know this kind of an experience was possible, but when my brother shared the gospel with me, this was out on the farm. This was a church experience. I'm on the farm, I'm smoking dope, putting an engine into my old 67 Dodge. My brother comes up on the tractor, tells me about Jesus, and I punch him off the track. So I tell people it was the toughest altar call that was ever given. We get in a fight. He throws a big wrench at me. We fought for a few minutes, and then finally we hugged, and he said, "I love you." And he said, "I'll leave you alone." I said, "Good, leave me alone." I said, "But the presence of God came over my life for 1 week, and I'm out with my friend there, and we're drinking vodka one night, smoking pot, and I'm just going to be very real about this. I said, "Andy," I said, "I think there's something real. I think God is real." He just kind of looked at me, and the reason I'm going to answer your question with this is because eventually I came to the conclusion. I knew that God was real. I knew He was calling me. I didn't really understand too much. But I went and seen a pastor, and he said, "Lawrence, this is very simple. Jesus died on the cross for your sins. He was raised on the third day. If you want to have Jesus in your heart, if you want your sins forgiven, I'll pray with you right now." When I bowed my head, I'd prayed many times before. It was like picking up a phone that the bill hadn't been paid. It was dead, always dead, no response. This is the first time in my life that I prayed, and I knew God heard me. It was like sitting with you guys right now. I never experienced anything like it. So after I prayed and asked Jesus in my heart, something happened inside of me. The Bible calls it being born again. When that happened, it was like God, as I began to study, as I said before, I began to study the Bible. And this is over a period of time. It didn't happen overnight, but slowly, I started to notice that I have a gift to communicate. I love people. I love talking to people. And so every new little thought that I learned from the Bible, I'd tell somebody about it. Even if they didn't want to hear it, I'd tell them.
Yeah.
So I was really obnoxious back then. But I started to see a pattern, and I started to have a desire. So I tell people that one of the ways, the indicators of what God is doing in your life is there'll be an inner desire. And I started to have this a passion to learn, and then a passion to teach. And it started to flow. So every opportunity I had, started to do it, and it just began to develop. And then, of course, the Lord spoke to me to move my family to Sweden, and we went to a year of Bible school. And in that year of Bible school, my life totally changed right there. I saw it. I knew I'd traveled the nations at that point. So I dedicated my life to world missions. There was a huge world map. There was about 4,000 people at this conference. And my wife said, "I don't feel like I'm supposed to do that." But I said, I know I'm supposed to do this. And I walked across this world map, prayed over it and all this. And I dedicated my life to world missions, that I would travel the nations and preach the gospel. Yeah. So that's kind of how it all started. But what happened here, if you guys want to know the story, is it's wild.
Let her rip.
Yeah. So, okay, it's amazing. So I was still working in the oil field at the time. And my former pastor said, I think you need to go to Spain. I want you to go to Spain. There's one of our guys going to be preaching there on the island of Mallorca. And I thought, I'm going to go to Spain. What, I want to go to Spain. Don't even have money to go there. But I felt God wanted me to go. So I said, okay, I'll go. And somebody gives me the money. And so so I go to Spain, and I'm sitting in this little meeting. And I'm thinking, what the heck am I doing in Spain here? And this pastor from Hanover, Germany, so we're in Mallorca, Spain, he calls me out. And he said, "You come here." And I walk up there. He puts his hand on me. And I don't know if you guys if you're familiar with this stuff, but He puts his hand on me and he begins to speak about the future. We call it prophesying. And he begins by the Holy Spirit he said, you're going to travel the nations. He said, I see you traveling from nation to nation to nation. Now he doesn't even know me, but as he's speaking, I know what he's speaking. This is in my heart already. He's confirming what I have inside me. He said, I see you preaching the gospel nation all around the world. He said, you're going to preach. And, but it's going to happen later in life. He said, so don't chase it. But he said, but right now you're coming to a crossroads in your life. And what you do at this time, he said, will set the course for the rest of your life. So that was October of 94. I fly back from Spain and I'm here one night. I'm just in the corner of the building. I used to pray every Saturday night. So I'm an oil field worker. I'm not pastor, nothing. And there's no indication he's going anywhere. I'm in the church praying and I heard the Lord say to me, he said, you're about to be the next pastor of this church. And I thought, holy smokes, man. I wasn't planning for this.
Yeah.
And so when God calls you to do something, he'll always call you to do what you cannot do.
Yeah.
And then if you answer it, if you respond, then he'll give you the grace. He'll give you the ability to do it. Because I'm not trained as a pastor. I come out of the oil field with all the cussing and all of that stuff, and I come to the pulpit.
Yeah. How are we going to bring that in?
Yeah. But I wasn't cussing. But I mean, you're in this environment, so I was a little bit rough. But yeah, so following God isn't, I think why a lot of guys don't go to church. I think they think it's for women. It's because a lot of men have, the actual Bible itself, men were leading. Men were doing, everything was men. And the women, like all the countries I go to, the men are leading. But in North America, somehow the men have checked out and they do the important things like fishing or sports, or, but leading our families, we have to lead our homes in things of value as well, eternal value. And I think that's really important. So for me, I would have never went to a church, but I had this encounter. And now I see the importance that men need to lead in fitness and everything else. We need to be the leaders.
Yeah. I like that personal growth story too. Like you just went for it. You bit off more than you could chew, and then you figured out how to chew it later.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Most of my adventures have been just skydiving, this or that or whatever, but you just get into it and you learn as you go.
Mm-hmm.
So many men are they're so afraid to take that step because they want to be ready. They want to be ready. They want to be ready. Just dive. Just do it. You're gonna learn on the way. You're gonna make mistakes and learn on the way.
Like, remember when you said, don't message Adam already,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he'll never want to be on our podcast, right? And then I did, and he messaged back within a couple of days.
Yeah.
It's little things like that. Just,
Well,
and it's out of your comfort zone, but are you ever going to be in a comfort zone?
Yeah.
Are you ever going to get there?
Just like
try
having kids, just like the new job. But you're
Yeah.
gonna be ready.
I'm going to wait till I'm financially stable. You could be 65 and
Yeah.
not be married and have kids.
the most exciting stories that we read about in the Bible, these guys took a risk.
It's an adventure.
Oh man, they took a risk. We don't read about the boring guys. Like, I mean, they're irrelevant. But the guys that took a risk, they had the miracles. They just about got killed, or Daniel just about got eaten in the lion's den. And we think, wow, these are the stories.
And that's what we thrive off of.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
what men thrive off of. Is that danger, that risk.
It opens
Yeah.
the door to something new, and then you grow from it.
I read, I think it was, I don't know if I saw it or I read it, but several years ago, quite a few years ago, actually, and I live by this now, is this one person was saying that every 2 years, he does something outside of his comfort zone, like whether it's take a course or a trip or this or that or whatever, but you do something that you push yourself past your comfort level. And that's because you get into that's where your growth takes place.
Yep.
And our lives are actually like a rubber band. A lot of times people haven't been stretched at all. And that's why we need good coaches in our life. So I see myself more like a coach, actually, where I'll stretch people. I'll push them. Some people get mad at me, but I push them.
You can do more.
Yeah, that's right. Because you stretch your life more, think bigger, always pulling. And that's why this church here, we reach around the world. When I first started pastoring, we were down to 10 people, 12, including my wife and I, September the 27th, 1995. It was ridiculous, but I preached that message. It was like, I felt this is a do or die. I felt you're either through or something's going to happen. But I preached a message, and that night I began to declare what this church is going to do, how we're going to take the gospel to the ends of the earth. Like if you were to sit there, you think that this guy is off his rocker. But you know what? We've taken the gospel now right around the world. Africa, throughout Asia. We've helped build buildings and orphanages, and we've sent teams all over the world. But that was decided when we had 10 people.
Like the logistics of it, I totally get it. I can see it. I can see all the people that you would tell at that time.
Yeah.
You're from Cold Lake, Alberta,
It's just
in the
ridiculous.
middle of nowhere,
It's
right?
ridiculous.
And
Yeah.
who in the world's that's crazy. It's audacious. What do you,
It's totally, it's totally. We're like the bumblebee that, nobody told us we can't fly,
Yeah.
and we just do it anyhow. I tell people, your life can never go higher than your thoughts.
right?
And also your life will never go beyond your words if you don't dare to say it.
Yeah.
So we tell people,
And that can be just to yourself.
yes, you don't
Right?
have to tell everybody. Matter of fact, you shouldn't,
Right. I agree.
because there's a guy in the Bible that did, and he got in a lot of trouble. And that was Joseph. Joseph had a dream that eventually his brothers were going to bow down to him and his mom and dad. And he went and told it. And they sold him into slavery, and he wound up 17 years, the long story short. But most people are not dreamers. Most people are just going with the flow. The highest dream that people have is like everybody has. We want to retire in our 50s. We want to buy in a little cabin. To me, it's just like blah, blah, blah. It's so boring.
I have a question. Do you think the fact that people aren't geared that way, is it just they're taking second place, or they're just being safe? I just feel like if men in general would dig into themselves, find the purpose, then they would find that wild side and the risk. I don't know if it's these people are like this and these people are like this. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Because you can change things. And I understand. So if you want to change in your life, several things that I would say, because this is what I would do, is you have to look at the people around you.
Yeah.
Because your life is never going to go beyond the people around you. And most people, what they do, because they want to stay in a comfort zone, they don't want to be challenged. So they surround themselves with friends that so they all think the same. They all fish, they're all this. But if you want to go somewhere, you have to find people that are already there, and you have to start to connect with them.
Right.
Sometimes I tell people, sometimes the only way you can connect with some of these people is through their books, through their podcasts.
Yeah.
Through this. A lot of people that were tremendous inspiration for me, I've never really met them personally.
Right. Me too.
But they're my greatest mentors.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we think we got to actually know them. No, you read their books.
Right.
Spend time with them, and you get into their head, and it's like you're sitting with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get programmed,
Totally.
a different programming through people that have.
We can reprogram ourselves.
Yeah.
It's partially tribal too. You don't want to be the outcast in the 10 people that you hang out with either, right?
Yeah.
You get shunned from the community.
It's true.
Kick you out into the wild, right?
It's true. But there's seasons in our life, and we have to understand our seasons. The first 30 years of our life, that's our learning season. That's why I believe one of the most dangerous things that parents could ever do that will hurt their kids' future is give them a smartphone. They should not be having smartphones.
Right.
I think it's the greatest detriment to the destiny and development of a child, because those early formative years, so you look at from, even up into your 20s, those are your formative years. Those are the years to be studying and this and that, not playing. You talk to the millionaires and the billionaires and all that. They're not playing in those years. They're teaching their kids the same thing. They're training these kids. But poor people don't. Poor people, it's video games or this or that. And now what should have been a foundation actually perpetuates into their adult life.
Mm-hmm.
So they get their job, probably don't even like their job, but they get their job, and then they're comfortable. They don't want to challenge it because at least I'm making a living.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not called to make a living. We're called to have a life. And so I chose to go on the risk factor. Like when I made the decision to move to Sweden, it was crazy. We didn't have the money to do it. Nothing. But I'll just be honest with you and your viewers. I didn't sense. The Lord actually did speak to me. He said, go. He told me to go to Sweden. And I didn't have the money. And I remember one night I was so discouraged and all that. And I'm laying on my bed. And I heard the voice of the Lord speak to me. And he said, go, it'll be okay. So did you know we stepped out to go to Europe with 2.5 months rent, and that's it.
Well,
That's it. And we moved to Sweden like
talk about burning
2.5
out.
months rent and a prayer. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know
It's gonna
what?
happen.
It was most amazing adventure that year. It changed my life because it was the first time I ever had to trust God. Like either this stuff is real or it's not. If it's not, let's just throw it away and let's just move on. But if it's real, I want to know.
And there's a sense of urgency in yourself at that time where you know you got to make something happen.
100%. I really, from the time I gave my heart to the Lord, something happened in me where I knew that my life counts. And when you know that, it changes your disciplines. They say great hope for the future gives you great power in the present, power to overcome addictions, power to start to discipline your schedule. Our future doesn't happen in a day, but it happens daily, as you guys know, just like bodybuilding or anything like that. It doesn't happen in a day, but it does happen daily. And our future is like that. Our marriage is like that. So I tell people this, you show me your schedule and I can tell you your future. You show me your schedule, tell me what you do each day. I can tell you where your health is going to go, your finances and all that, because you don't have to be a prophet. You just have to think a little bit. And so a lot of people are doing things, but they're not thinking.
They're not intentional about it.
They're not intentional.
One thing Justin and I have been digging into is we've created some scorecards. And in the last, I'd say, year and a half, we have a daily scorecard. And that just tracks my intention and my wins, which really makes my life intentional, right?
Yeah.
You have to be completely honest with yourself when you go through it too. And you're like, ooh, I sucked in that.
Yes, exactly. It's true.
I got to pick up my socks here.
Yeah, it's true. Well, like a hockey game or whatever games, they got the scoreboard. And that's the motivator. If we're behind the point or whatever.
We need a big shift here. We need to push.
So we need measurable goals. So when we talk about vision for our lives or whatever, I tell people, okay, you do have to have your lifelong vision. Like at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, what do I want to have accomplished? What do I want to experience? Different things and all that. That is a big question.
There has to be a target.
There has to be, and
if there's not a visual target, you don't know where you're going.
And it has to be clear. And then you have to have smaller goals. So when you have the end goal, it's like driving your vehicle. They always teach you, you look down the road. You don't look over your hood. And we get through problems a lot easier if we're looking down the road, because all of us are going to go through problems. I don't care who you are, Christian, non-Christian, doesn't matter. All of us go through problems. But if you have your goal clear, this problem is only a season.
Right.
It's just a season.
Seasons are temporary.
But that season can be drug out to a 20-year season if we allow the problem to become inside of us.
Right.
I tell people water doesn't sink a boat unless it gets in the boat. And our problems sink us when it starts to get into our minds. And we build our identity now around our problem. My alcoholism, my diabetes. And I tell people, don't ever build your identity around your problem. That's why you got to know who you are. Your problem is just an outside thing. And you can listen, even after this conversation, just listen to people talk. And you'll start to see that people have actually identified somebody who went through a divorce, maybe. I met a lady one time. I thought she got divorced maybe 6 months ago or whatever, like she was still traumatized. It was like 20 years ago. She's let it become her identity.
She's plagued by the identity she created.
Yeah. And so to get through a problem, you cannot identify with this thing. It's not who I am.
Yeah.
You know, maybe
maybe
we failed in an area, but it's not who we are.
Right.
So those are big things for men.
And it is a really challenging thing for men and people in general, I would imagine, to get past, right? You know, if you were a drunk for 20 years and you didn't treat people the right way, that's the identity that you associate with yourself with.
And the world will identify you that way. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. You're always one day away. That's like in our world as Christians, that's a lie, because God doesn't label us like that. When we come to the cross, that's done. Now, maybe that's our past, but that's it. It's done. But in the world, that's how you get all these labels. Those labels are terrible.
Yeah.
Carried around like baggage.
Yeah. And so you got to watch. That's why we tell people you be careful what you say, because your words are actually very important. So that's one thing I learned in aviation is, that rudder on the aircraft. Without that rudder, you're going to crash. Well, the Bible teaches that the rudder to our life is our mouth. and that death and life are in the power of the tongue. So the direction of your life will always go in the direction of your conversation.
Right.
So you got to be careful what you're talking. So many people just throw words around and they're not, but I learned, and I didn't know this either until I was 19. I began to study this. And I thought, holy smokes. And I began to change the way I talk. I only talk in the direction I want to go. That's why when we had 10 people, I didn't talk about where we were. I talked about where we're going. And I wouldn't allow any of our leadership to say anything different. I said, you're not going to talk lack. You're not going to talk this. You're not going to talk that. We talk this way. That's it. And so I was very firm about it. And of course, we got what we said.
Right. And primarily, to support your topic, primarily it's that dialogue you have with yourself.
You have to have that inner, because our minds, they say our thoughts, there's a steady stream of thoughts going on all the time, steady stream. And the Bible teaches us that we have to take hold of our thoughts. We have to capture our thoughts, because if we don't capture our thoughts, we can have some pretty wild thoughts, pretty crazy thoughts that bring us down. And so we have to control those thoughts. That's why I would say reading is so important, and biographies of people that have, I love reading stuff with guys that have been through some hard times.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I've had some low moments, even in pastoring, where I just needed some encouragement, I just flick on the training of the Navy SEALs. I just watch these guys just get it. And I love it, because they're hosing them down. They're doing this. And I watch the tenacity of these guys, and it encouraged me.
Right.
Because they say to overcome the battles in life, one of the things that we have to have is AQ. And it's determined on our AQ is our adversity quotient, not our IQ. The winners in life, the people that really move through things, are the ones that can handle adversity. And so really our society has actually been detrimental. It's softened everybody.
Right.
So that's why people are committing suicide and this, just checking out because life's too hard. We got to get tougher. And even in our congregation, sometimes people want to get into counseling. I'm not interested in just petting people's feelings.
Right.
I want to toughen them up and give them
Yeah.
really. So I'm a different kind of pastor. I irritate people sometimes, but I want to toughen them up.
I love that so much, because that's exactly what we need.
You need
in
that adversity to grow.
We do.
That's where it is.
My dad, one time, I was 15 years old, and I'm not saying dad should do this, but I was throwing a hay bale. I'd been partying the night before, whatever, and I was helping him through stacking hay. And I threw a bale to him, and we're way up on the haystack. But I'm just saying, this is how I was raised. And I lost my balance. And I wasn't fooling around. I just lost my balance, but I was very agile on my feet. And I thought, well, I'll just jump off the haystack because I'm going to fall anyhow. I'll just jump and land on my feet. But my heel hooked the binder twine of the bale. So I went all the way down off that haystack on my back, and it just, bam, I'm on my back. Dad looked off. He looked over. He said, "Well, suit you for fooling around." He said, "Get back up here and help."
Yeah.
Now, in today's world, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
it would be just a
Concussion
big,
protocol through
and I'm not advocating that we don't have a little bit of compassion, but it's just the world that I grew up in. And you know something, actually, it's okay. We all live through these things. And I think kids are bubble wrapped now. Everybody's bubble wrapped, and everything's about feelings. And I think that we have to reverse that whole thing.
Yeah, they don't get a chance to develop resilience and capacity and toughness and grit.
Toughen them up.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's okay to talk about your emotions, but you can't dwell on them.
That's
And
right.
then you have to also think about what are the solutions so I don't feel this again or move forward with my life.
You got to be able to speak. And, yes, we have to be able to communicate. 100%, I agree. Raising children, dads and moms are totally two different, moms, they shelter the kids and all of this type of stuff. But dads will take those boys out there, teach them how to hunt, teach them how to do this. I think I was about 10 years old, and dad told me to jump in the half ton, back it up, and he held the hitch. He didn't, I had just watched him. I hadn't done it before, and he held that hitch on the rock picker. He says, "Back it up." I said, and he trusted me. Then you start to learn responsibility. You start to learn all of these things. I think there's just a lot of things that we can learn. But for men, the big thing I would say to any man is how valuable men are.
Yeah.
We're important. We're important to society. We're important to our wives, our families, and our communities. So men, rather than check out, men got to step up to the plate and realize, hey, I am somebody.
And men, I really believe too, we've got to own the parts of us that haven't been that good.
Yes,
There's been a lot of us that have,
Yes.
checked out in different ways. So we have a role to play, and we've got to uphold a certain standard for ourselves.
It's true.
As well, so that the women and children in the community can look at us with respect.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's true, because if we've goofed off, and it's true.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
A false prophet scenario. Yeah.
Yeah,
Do as they say, not as they do.
right. Yeah, exactly.
We don't want that.
No,
You at the gym. I mean, you and I had seen each other at the gym for a couple months, and I just felt compelled to talk to you. I don't know how you felt, and we ran into each other in the change room, and then kind of started from there. But I had no idea that you were 63 years old. I guess I was impressed. I knew you were, but I was just impressed by how you trained, and obviously your size and structure. And I wanted to dig into what compelled you to want to push yourself like that.
even when I was younger, the one thing I will say, like, I was always active. So I played hockey, 5 years of hockey when I was in my teens. And then when I left to Grand Prairie, I left home at 15 years old and went to work, in a prefab place, and, building homes and all of that in Grand Prairie. But I would get home from work. Actually, what started it is just for, I think there was about 2-month period of time. And when I first left home, I was eating these Sara Lee cakes, and I wasn't working on nothing. I was getting pretty porky, and my brother was living there, and I always highly esteemed my brother. I really wanted to be like him. He was a tough guy. He was a scrapper, but I was getting to be looking like the Pillsbury Doughboy. And he came over one day, and we're just talking in Grand Prairie, and he leaned over and he poked me in the stomach. He said, "You get a little bit porky." He says, yeah, I didn't say anything. Obviously, he's bigger than me and all this. And I thought to myself, no one will ever do that to me again. And it started my journey. I changed my eating, started working out. And so that was in my teens. And so that kind of was a set point for me. So I had gotten in really good shape. And then, but when I got pastoring, it's not so I worked the rigs, and I did all this physical stuff. But as soon as I got pastoring, after, 10 years of that, I started to get pretty spongy again. And I remember I was in Rwanda, and I was up in the hills of Rwanda. I had a team there, and I was going up the hills, and I was about 35 pounds overweight at the time. And I was going up this hill, and this lady, she's about a 65-year-old African lady. I was maybe not quite 50 yet. And she passes us up the hill. She's not breaking a sweat. She's carrying a basket on her head, big smile, bare feet. And I'm huffing and puffing, thinking I'm going to go to cardiac arrest or whatever. And I thought, you know what?
That's average.
I gotta make that change. Yeah.
So it took about a year or so before I actually buckled down, and I was in Calgary with a pastor friend of mine, and we just got talking about health one day. And again, I was still overweight, and but there was something about the conversation that when I had the 6-hour drive home, I just felt, you know what? Enough is enough.
Right.
And I made that decision. I didn't have a plan though. And so after I did some research, I eventually got a good nutrition plan, because that's 85% of the battle.
I agree.
And I went after the nutrition. I got hardcore into that. And then I'd never done weights in my life. Never. And so I found a guy from Newfoundland, Lee Hayward, his name is, and he had this workout program, and I just took his basic workout program and I kind of modified it for myself. And for the first year, I just went super light, just working on technique, and then just started. And then I got addicted.
Right.
So every morning I'm feeding myself motivational speaking or whatever. So I'm feeding my mind, working on my inner vision. Because to get into shape outwardly, you have to work on your inner.
Right.
A lot of times people are trying to just modify the outward. Doesn't work. You got to first change.
They're missing something.
Yeah, because you got to reprogram your autopilot.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we can see what happens with people. They try to get in shape, but they haven't done this. So it's like taking the control column of an airplane. It's already programmed to go this direction, but you can overpower it. So you override it, and no problem. The moment you relax your grip, it'll always go back to the set.
Back. Yeah.
And so the thing that I work at with getting into shape is I work at here first and here. And what I did, so I went on YouTube and I found guys in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, guys that really went for it. And then I set that in my mind. Okay, that's me. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And then I started working at it. So I'm 63 and feel like I'm 45. But nutrition and it's your mindset as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pure medicine for me.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's,
Yeah.
you know, people that are depressed, whatever you're going through or stress or whatever, you get in the gym. Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
You just zone out the world for a little bit.
And it trains you how to do things without feeling like it, because a lot of times I don't feel like doing this.
Right.
You just do it. And after 15 minutes, then you're into it.
That only has to happen a certain number of times before you just know when you go there, even if you don't want to,
Yeah.
the outcome is going to be better than the alternative.
Always. 100%. 100%. Not everybody buys into it. But I'll tell you, if I could get everybody doing it, I think it would be the best thing, whether it's running, whatever. But for me, I like the weightlifting and stuff like that.
I train early in the morning, and I bet you 75% of the time when I wake up, I don't want to do it.
No,
Yeah.
It's like, what am I doing? And my brain's it's tired, it's trying to talk to each other, right?
Yeah.
But when I'm done an hour and a half later, I feel like $1,000,000, and I'm so happy I made them.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So it's learning to live by the goals that you're setting. So there's a scripture. I'll just use a Bible scripture. Proverbs 29:18 says, without a vision, people perish. And the other translation says they cast off restraint, means you don't have any discipline. I was in Russia one time. I was in Moscow, and this American preacher actually was there in this big conference I was at. And he said a statement that caught my attention. He says, many people say youth, they're undisciplined and this and this and this. He said, I disagree. He said, the problem with our young people is they have no vision.
Right.
And parents should be imparting vision. And many times parents aren't imparting nothing.
Because they don't have it either.
They don't
You don't have it
nothing
either. Yeah.
Can't give
It becomes
don't have.
generational.
So we need to give vision for our kids.
Let's go back to that. So is it that we are genetic dreamers, or are people taking a back seat to the dreams that they should potentially have?
That's a good question, because I would say there are some people that are hardwired, that they think out of the box,
Right.
and all of, like my wife, for instance, she's the bean counter more, as far as like she's detailed. Thank God for her, because I couldn't run a church without
Right.
her. So you do have some people that tend to be real visionary. However, I think for men, the way God made us, we are hardwired to be visionaries.
Right.
Women, not necessarily so. Maybe some women are. But I think for men, I think maybe some more than others. But developing vision is something you can learn just by who you hang out with. Because I have hung out with a lot of people who just think big.
Yeah.
When we were in Bible school, they taught us this. They said, the one guy was saying, he was an American, and he had run a big ministery. But he said, every year I hire a guy, this guy, he said, I pay him $1,000. I sit with him for an hour, and I'll share with him a few things, goals that I have. And then I let him take that few things I throw out to him, and then he'll stretch. He'll stretch my brain. He said, 1 hour is all I can handle with this guy. And so there are people that you can get around, just the way they think can actually start to enlarge you.
Who is he? Let's get him on the podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
I love guys that have that kind of energy, and it just rubs off on you.
Yes.
Right? And then they've got another idea and they can feed off that. You just pick it up too, right?
You do. So on purpose, you get around dreamers, and then you start to
Level up.
Yeah, it changes your life. Yeah. So it gets back to your relationships. People, men, need to pay attention who they're hanging out with,
Right.
and many men are actually loners, which that's not good.
That's sad. Yeah.
It's, so what are they hanging out with? Maybe they're just watching movies, or I don't know what.
Yeah. Our tribe workouts has really evolved.
I see that. It's good. Yeah.
Growing.
Really proud of it. Yeah.
Yeah, you got a good bunch of guys, that's for sure. I like what you guys are doing, though. I think it's going to grow. I think it's going to really catch on, because I think it's going to resonate with a lot of men, because people want community. And like I said before, I'll be totally honest with you. You say church, we can talk about a lot of things, but you say church, people, it's like, the measles or something you're talking about.
Right,
They
yeah.
want to avoid it.
I
And
think that's changing though, Lawrence.
I think
I
so.
really think I
They're making
think
a comeback, I think.
It is. Well, I think it really is now. A lot of people are coming. Well, because we're challenged.
right.
All of our foundation is
And
being uprooted here.
I think one of the biggest reasons is that foundational structure.
Yeah,
The foundational structure, a positive foundational structure that people can follow.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Principles that we can live by, things that are
Yeah.
unchanging. Because we're living in a society that, I mean, everything just
Yeah.
changing, but there are some things that are unchanging.
Yeah.
And that's what people need to, I think they're reaching for that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I want to go back to a little bit of the traveling and stuff too.
Okay.
You've traveled extensively through India.
Yes, many countries in Asia and then some in Africa as well.
Yeah. So with those countries, can you share one story from your travels that deeply impacted you?
Wow.
I'm sure
Well,
there's many.
There are many. um, Man, that's a loaded because all of these things. And my first trip, I'll just say this because um, my first trip into India, I'll never forget it, March 1998. I had never been in that country before, never been in Asia before. And what a shock. And you might have got off on the moon or something like that. It's just such a cultural change. It's just everything's different. They worship like 300 million gods. They got a temple to the rat god, temple to the monkey god. So you remember Kevin Costner and Robin Hood? Remember that show, Robin Hood?
Yeah.
And there's right at the beginning, you hear the chants coming out of the mosque or whatever. You remember, that. Well, when I landed in India, we took a smaller flight to this state called Gujarat. I had no idea anything about the country. And in those days, it was one of the most dangerous places you could go. Had no idea. So we went with a Canadian evangelist, and there's about 40 people on the team. I had no earthly idea. We're in the middle of an election there. So this is not the time to be there. So we're there. So I'm just happy in my ignorance. But I go to bed that night, got in late. It's like 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning, laying in the hotel room. And everything was just, I felt like I'm in a movie because the chants are going out and all of this, everything was just so different. Well, that week became a very intense week. It was one of this evangelist had been going into that country for over 20 years or whatever. And it was one of the worst attacks that ever took place in his ministry. And I was there for it. And that's where I felt the call of God come on my life for India. And I was there for 28 years after. But we went into this meeting and this big campaign. There could have been 100,000 people that would have been there, but I think at the time there's maybe only 20,000 that showed up so far. And the election had just taken place, and there was a political party that came in, and they are radical Hindus, and they're violent, and they sanctioned an attack on our meeting. The government sanctioned an attack on us, and when the government sanctions an attack on you, and you're in their territory, you got problems. And so we're all behind the stage, and all of a sudden there was several bombs. There was about 5 bombs went off, and like we're just alerted. And then all this fighting broke out. So they were trying to create a riot, and if they could have got a lot of us killed. But so us guys, there was big guys like yourself and us guys, we ran to the front. So we're going to try to fight and try to hold this off. So this is real. This is real raw, and but this was out of control. We couldn't do it. We were all pushed up on the stage. And in the middle of that, you asked me something that really stands out. I felt the presence of God come over me. And I felt in my heart, you'll be in this country now for about, more than 20 years. And I just felt that. And so I felt very confident. I mean, fighting, people being beaten with sticks and things. And the police, it was just really weird. The police are standing there, not doing nothing. They got their shotguns and people are being beat up and fires. There's one van burning. That was my introduction to India. And I thought, holy smokes, man, is India going to be like this? That was the only time it happened.
Well, and at the same time, you're going through this chaos.
Yes.
And the message being sent to you was you're going to stay here.
Yeah, I felt,
Right.
The Apostle Paul in the Bible, there's one place he went into and he says, we have many adversaries here. He said, I think I'll stay a while. When you read the New Testament, These guys are wild. So when the real Christianity is not a bunch of women sitting around, the real Christianity is actually quite wild. And there's breaking territory. And so when I was trained in Sweden, that's the environment I was trained in. All of these preachers, they were going into the former Soviet Union, they're breaking territory in a former communist country. And then they would come back and teach us. So I was getting to watch these guys. It'd be like if you got to train with Mike Tyson or something, or any of these guys. It's just like you're around the real meal deal.
Right.
And that's how I felt. And it lit me up on the inside. So when I got into that environment, I wasn't afraid. I just come alive. After that, I traveled all over the country doing leadership seminars, and we saw cripples healed. So that was the one thing. That was the reason I went to begin with. I wanted to see the real thing. And let me just give you one more thing with that story. So we couldn't go back to those grounds the next night. We had to go to a smaller grounds. Technically, there was a witch supposed to kill us. She was going to bring 1,000 people to kill us. And the police says, if she comes, you guys are on your own. So it's just really strange. We don't normally hear about a witch going to get, but in that environment, that was the deal. She didn't come. But anyhow, we wound up in these smaller grounds, and there was about 20,000 people. And that night, I will never forget, I listened to the preacher, and I just wanted to hear what he said. I just watched him like a hawk. And as he began to speak, the presence of God, I will never forget this, the longest day I live. The presence of God came, and it was like electricity came in the air. I don't know how to explain it. And all of a sudden, cripples began walking, crutches were going up, blind people were seeing, deaf people are hearing. And it's not manufactured, because a lot of times people say, no, this is as raw as it gets. This guy doesn't have control over much. He's just preaching the gospel. And I watched, and I was one of the guys that would talk to people about their healing, whatever. And there was a lot of people got healed. And it marked me to watch the gospel real and in action.
How could it not? Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to see it for myself, because a lot of times you don't see this kind of stuff. But there, oh yeah. And in my meetings, when I go to Pakistan, we'll see people get healed and stuff like that. Wow.
Incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. So it changes you. So I always tell people we go over there to change them. But truth is, every trip that I've taken over there has changed me.
Right.
You're not the same person anymore. You're ruined for regular living. I can say it that way. You're ruined.
You're such a phenomenal example of what healthy masculinity is.
Thank you.
Right. We have been sort of labeled, masculinity has been labeled toxic, right? And that exists, it does.
Sure.
But why can't we talk about healthy masculinity? Because it's so important.
Exactly. Was it Jordan Peterson? I just read a little thing from Jordan. You know him,
Yeah,
Canada
course,
here. And he said people are talking about this toxic masculinity. He said, talk about a dangerous man, but he said, I'll tell you something. He said, the people that I'm concerned of is the weak man on their potential.
Yeah.
No, strong men. We need strong men, and we need masculinity. I believe it's a psychological attack on our Western culture to dumb men down, weaken them. And you look in, they're turning women into men, men into women. I think men need to be men with no apology.
Right.
And women just stay women. We love just women be women, men be men. That's what we need in our society.
100%.
Yeah. And preachers need to be men as well.
Yeah.
Not be feminine.
When you break the mold, I don't know if I've ever seen a minister preacher that's ever looked like you before. And it's so easy for people to look up and respect you and listen to your words when you uphold the image that you uphold, right?
Yeah. We have to be, we need to be modeling this. And how can we be telling, I tell people ought to be able to walk in our churches. We ought to be the healthiest bunch,
right?
Rather than just totally out of shape and dragging it and all that stuff. And no, Christianity isn't just we might come in as losers, but the cross changes us. That's what I tell people. If Jesus went to the cross, he goes through all of that, it's raised from the dead, and just before he ascends to heaven, well, I sure hope it helped you out a little bit. That's what I was telling people on Sunday. I said, come on. Yeah. He died for change.
Yeah.
Radical change. And every person that had an encounter with Jesus, a real encounter, they're changed and radically changed. And they don't become meeker. Christians aren't a bunch of victims. people that walk with God, you know, if we're really walking with God, we're strong people. We should have it together. Our families should be good. You know, it doesn't mean we're perfect people, though. That's the beauty of the gospel. God finds us where we were. Like my brother and I, if you saw us when we first came in here, holy cow, man, we were just wild. You know, totally defeated by life, just self-inflicted defeat. But yet the gospel working inside of us brings that change. God doesn't come to condemn us. He finds us and he heals us and restores us, but turns us back into men again, back into women again.
Yeah.
And gives us back our purpose. That's what I thought.
Right.
Yeah. Turns us into fighters. Like we're designed to, like, there's lots of fight in me. I have
Right.
a lot of fight in me.
Yeah.
And I find we can walk with God. We can do all of these things. We don't have to become wimpy and this and that. And I think that's why men are afraid of.
Yeah.
So fighting, combat, it's associated with evil, or right? It's labeled as bad,
Yeah.
uncontrollable, all these stigmas,
Yeah.
right? But I can't speak to it with enough intelligence to really break it down. But there's a part for it. There's a place in this.
And I have an illustration. As you said it, it came up in my mind. I just watched it. There's a preacher in the States. He says, I was thinking of playing it for a congregation or whatever his name is. Anyhow, he brought this out. He's got a real ministry to men. But he says, watch this. And so it shows a clip of a soy boy and his girlfriend. Like, so, you know, he's got his little backpack on and his girlfriend. And some guy tackles his girlfriend. And I don't know what he's doing. If he's trying to steal from her or he's slapping her up. The guy steps aside. The boyfriend steps aside. Unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And he's watching his girlfriend taking a licking.
Right.
Two other guys, they spot this. They move in and they just hang it to this guy. Give him a licking. And this preacher says, and I like this because we got to get this back.
Right.
We got to turn our men back into men again. Because a lot of times there's this misconception that to be a Christian, somehow you turn the other cheek. No. This is, you know, your liberty ends at the end of my nose. That's where all liberties end at that point. And so to be a man of God, to be a Christian doesn't mean to be a sissy. We should be able to defend our wives, defend our girlfriends. So he warned, he said, girls, make sure that whoever you date is going to defend you.
Yeah.
Like he's going to scrap. So there is a place for it. If somebody's going to touch your family, that's it. All deal is done right there.
Right. Mm-hmm. I even feel like it's beneficial. Lawrence, you and I get into an argument. We're the same age. We're working together, whatever. And we're both not really seeing eye to eye. We end up in a fisticuffs.
Yeah.
I can probably bet that after we're going to be good with each other.
You visit me in the hospital.
And
Side by side.
It might even be, our relationship might even be better.
Yes.
Right? We butted heads, we locked horns, and then we figured it out and moved forward.
Yeah, you can move forward. There is a place for, you know, I remember they talked about the Civil War where it was such an honor to die for your country. Then they said they finally figured out eventually it was better to get the other guy to die for his country.
Yeah.
We win more wars that way.
Yeah.
But there's a place, like even just for like you have your family, you have your kids. So being a strong man, it's very important. They said even with girls being molested and stuff like that, when they caught the perpetrator, you probably heard of that.
I've heard this, yeah.
Yeah, and who did he always pick on? The one where just
Being his father.
a weak dad can't do it. So, and that's the girls that do it.
Yep.
So I'm challenging our guys to get in shape.
Good.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it.
Send them to the boss.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. It's important. So it's a mindset. Yeah. Really a winning mindset is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we can all win. If I win, you don't have to lose. In our lives, for someone to win, no one has to lose. You can win in your dreams. You can win in your family. You can win in your marriage, your health. So we can all win and we can all encourage one another.
Right.
But we do live in an evil world. And it's totally naive to think that things can't happen. And so that's why when we go to Pakistan, we're locked and loaded in. And for us, if somebody shoots, we shoot back.
Yep.
And so when people know that, everybody's a lot more polite.
Right.
Yeah.
I told our security, I don't want nobody riding with me that's not prepared to use this stuff. And then so then everybody's safe. We're all happy.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like this is just the beginning, Lawrence. I think we're gonna connect.
We got a few more questions
Sure.
to ask. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, we can get together anytime and do this again, and it's a lot of fun. But I hope this has been an encouragement for the men that are watching.
Mm,
You know, maybe pick up and glean a few ideas here and there. But you know, all of us we're people. Everybody's got problems, everybody's got challenges, and that's the big thing, is never to feel that you're odd man out if you got challenges. Everybody's got challenges.
that's right.
But every problem, there's a solution. There's no such thing as not a solution to every problem. But you got to have the will for it. And that will can get toughened up just by the guys you hang out with,
Right.
reading books, watching the training of the Navy SEAls, whatever.
Right. Yeah. Lone Survivor, I can watch that.
Oh man. But you know, I think what inspires me with these type of things, I'm not so much focused on the violence of it. I'm focused on what they could endure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. In Lone Survivor, they're all shot multiple times.
Yeah.
And they just they refuse
Didn't
to quit.
stop.
They just refuse to quit.
Mm,
And I'm just inspired by that. I thought, holy smokes. But how does that training happen? I mean, how does that strength happen? That's daily what we're doing in our daily disciplines. That's why working out is good.
Yeah.
Nutrition is important. So all of these things, we can't be strong as people if we're not strong in our bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In our minds, yeah.
So on that, what kind of daily routines do you have? Like-
My morning routine is the same every morning. I get up in the morning. Some guys, the first thing they do is pray. I pray a couple seconds, but first thing I do is I get my coffee, you know, shower and all that stuff, hit the gym, pre-workout, of course, get
Mhm.
me primed. And
That's all fine.
and I usually do an hour and a half, 2 hours in the gym every morning. And I just love it. I'm addicted. And so
What do you listen to?
okay, what I listen to at the time is I got a variety. So if I want motivational stuff, I'll put on Napoleon Hill.
Okay.
Napoleon Hill, great motivational stuff. Sometimes I'll put on I teach all the time, so I'm always having to feed. So I got Casey Treat. He's come out of the same background I did, but he's a great leader in Seattle, Washington, and big on leadership and these type of things and practical stuff on how to live our lives. So I listen to about 2 to 3 teachings or sermons every morning. So I'm just feeding my mind. And then sometimes, I'll listen to Joel Osteen, great encourager, I'll listen to, a message from him or something, a 30-minute message. So I do that. And then when I come home, depending on my tasks for the day, a variety of different tasks. And of course I have my 2 or 3 boiled eggs every time I finish my workout, that kind of thing. And, yeah, so again, it just goes into my tasks, and then sometimes I'll do a little power snooze if I can, like 63, and I find that I don't know, I kind of have a little bit of a moment in the afternoon. I don't know if we can get over that bump, but
Those are earned, right? Those are earned. I like those.
yeah. So that's kind of what I do. So I try to feed myself. I try to work on my mind every day, body and mind, and then I'm usually dealing with people on a regular basis. So I deal with things from death, disasters, people, some are happy, some are going through different things. So your emotions, you have to keep yourself, in check. Yeah. Because you're working with a wide range of emotions and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like that with my kids too. There's that sense of panic. If dad's in a panic,
Yeah.
your mood when you come in the door
Yeah.
is crucial to the family.
You
And you don't notice it until 10 years too late. But yeah.
I love
Yeah.
what Adam already said about that. Whenever he's going into the office, whether he's walking to the gym, whenever he's walking into the house,
Yeah.
he's got a totem, I believe.
Different hat.
Yeah,
Oh,
he,
yeah.
he has like a specific like device or he'll touch something and it's like this signal that he has within his body. I'm walking in to meet my wife right now, so I've got to change the person that I need to be for
Take
her.
off the warrior
That's
that I had at the
huge.
gym.
Yeah.
And now engage with my family.
You know what? That's big. Because if you're not careful, you still wearing that same hat. You
Yeah.
walk in, if you're the boss on a job or whatever, you're not the boss at home. Wearing those different hats. Yeah, you're right.
Just a little signal, right? A little
Yeah,
signal like,
yeah.
okay, it's time for me to shift
Yeah,
my presence.
that's right. Slow down. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, those are good points.
For someone listening who feels stuck, limited, or unsure of their purpose, what would you want to say to them?
That's a loaded one, but well, I'll just say what I was telling our people on Sunday. First thing about when you're feeling stuck is if you haven't made a decision that you're going to move on, then that's why people are depressed, because when you're depressed or you're feeling stuck, you can't get anywhere. Is number one is you haven't made the decision that you're actually going to move on, because everything begins with a decision.
Yeah.
Number two, it goes back to what we said. You gotta take the time, get clear about where do I want to go. Because until we're clear where we want to go, you can't move from where you are. There's no motion in our lives. And those ruts in our lives are actually mental ruts. And a rut will just it's a pattern of thinking that keeps us going on the same thing. We might not like it, but we're going to stay on that unless we break out of that rut. So sometimes to break out of a rut, like I remember years ago going down a path, we drove a lot of back roads or back paths in the bush or whatever. Sometimes you get into a rut though, and your wheels would fall into that rut. And it's not easy getting out of that.
Right.
You would actually have to crank your wheels. So it's a very dramatic thing you have to do. And I think sometimes to get out of a rut on purpose, you have to change your environment. Like sometimes you might have to just change your routine or do something, but something quite dramatic to break that routine.
An action, some sort of dramatic action.
You got to take, yeah. So they say this. That's a good point. I'm glad you said it. You cannot overcome the situation you're in by trying to feel your way out of it or think your way out of it. You have to act your way out of it. You change your feelings with actions.
Yeah.
And so you basically you choose your action. You make a decision, you choose your action. Your feelings will catch up later. Just like getting out of bed to work out.
Yeah.
Same thing. And you might be in a slump in your marriage. You might be in a slump just in your whole thing might be in a slump. But if you can get a clear vision, like let's say you're totally out of shape and you're so depressed about it or whatever, it's not a problem. Once you get a vision, you can get excited about it because now you can see it. 12 months from now, you just wait, or 6 months. And then we do the daily things. And sure enough, 6 months later, 12 months later, the whole thing's changed.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Overestimate what we can do in a year, underestimate what we can do in that.
Exactly. It's true. And so it only feels like we can't do it. It's a feeling.
Yeah.
And so we always I have our church say it almost every Sunday. I'm not moved by what I see. I'm not moved by how I feel. I'm moved only by what I believe. And of course, that's why you have to have your beliefs settled, established on something solid. And for us, that's why we have the Bible. That's solid. Yeah. Yeah. So nice
Really good
talking to you
advice.
guys.
Yeah, that was great. Lawrence, this has been an incredible conversation. Your life shows what's possible when vision, discipline, and service come together. Thanks for sharing your story and wisdom with us today.
You're welcome.
And to everyone listening, if this episode encouraged you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that they were created for more. Titans out.
Well, that's it for this episode of Titans for Life. If you got value today, make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share this with another Titan who needs to hear it. You can follow us on Facebook at Titans for Life. That's Titans, the number 4, Life, or on Instagram at Titans_4_life_online, all lowercase. And if you want to rep the movement, support the show, or grab some Titan gear or supplements, check out our links in the show notes. Our Shopify store is now up. Until next time, always remember, the grind is the gold.